Hi there, Accelerators Organization. It's Kael Campbell from Red Seal Recruiting. Thanks so much for bringing me on for this mentorship session. We've got some great questions from a bunch of great entrepreneurs. I just had a chance to touch base with Sean, so I love what he's doing for the group and just really helping people build their businesses. And I can really tell from the questions that people are kind of digging deep, making changes, and growing their businesses. So really love the questions. So make sure you guys keep them coming and yeah, try and implement this stuff. If you're having difficulty, you think I'm on the wrong track, comment, challenge me on it. I'd love to get other people's opinion on what they think will work for their business. And you guys have a wealth of experience. So just kind of add to this. It's just really great having these sessions, but also getting your feedback is important too. So the first question comes from Ricardo. He's got a barber shop. I've answered one of his questions before. Can't wait to get my haircut there. So his question is, how do I keep myself accountable and keep track of my goals? So this is super hard as an entrepreneur, as you have everything coming at you, and then you have life as well, right? So you got your family, um, your hobbies, volunteer work. So how are you going to keep yourself accountable and keep track of goals? So for me, the number one thing is to write them down. I did an exercise, man, had to be 20 years ago, about where I wanted to be in 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. And it was amazing. On the journey, I didn't really think I was going to get there. But when I look back on it, I got all those things. I got the business. I got to a point where I can exercise and do the things I want to do. I built a family. I'm in a relationship. Um, things that I was single. I just kind of left my corporate career, and it was before I'd started a business. And I really got those down on paper. And although I didn't look at them all the time, I always knew where that piece of paper was, and I went back to it. Now there's some really good tools like the Best Self Journal, where every day you can work on your goals and track where you're going with it. Whatever you choose, just get a system and stick with it. Some days you're going to skip it. The kids are going to wake you up, or fire alarm's going to go off, and you're not going to be really focused. But if you can try every day to kind of hit those goals, it makes a really big difference. A great entrepreneur I know, he uses a MIDO, most important daily outcome. So what's the number one thing he wants to do each day? And he's focused on that, right? So if he gets it done, he feels a great sense of accomplishment. And another way to do it is your top three. What are my top three things I'm going to do today? So it might be like congratulating an employee for a job well done, just making sure you've got that feedback loop. It might be getting that new customer, making those three calls, right? So just whatever it is, try and keep it manageable, because we can have, some people are amazing. They'll have all these things they measure: how many steps, how many times they hug their spouse, and those people are great. But I'm lucky to get one or three things done during the day. So I like to keep it manageable. Now the next question comes from Kevin. When exploring the opportunity to acquire a book of business, what should you be looking for during the initial investigation, and how do you structure the potential deal to mitigate risk? No, totally good question. Accounting firms, law firms, and investment firms all acquire books of business, often with the practitioner as well. So, or some mix of employees in place. So, whenever they do it, they do expect to lose some of that business. In the accounting world, I bet you if you talk to a few accountants, they'll know what the ratio of fall off is, and also possibly by season, right? So if you just come out of tax season, how many of those customers are likely to renew? So definitely get an idea for the ratio, within your industry, what to expect. And also, are you getting any employees with it? Are you getting any systems? You're going to lose some of those employees, and some of those systems will not have been implemented the way you want them to be implemented. So really digging deep on those things. Do they use the same CRM or the same bookkeeping software as you? So what is it going to take you to get those customers up to speed? How often they also met with any of those customers, right? So in this case, Kevin's looking at a business where one of the main customers of this business had hired the person full time, So that means to me that probably at least 25% of the business was with that one customer. So it might be tough to, really quantify how much of that business is left and is really viable. Definitely check the Google reviews, really early on to see what the feedback is. Once you get a non-disclosure letter in place about being able to dig into the business, see if you can get into the CRM. Are notes being made, right? If you need to get up to speed with a client, are you going to be walking in there kind of blind and somebody starts complaining, or are you going to have a really good sense of what they're doing? And could somebody else who, might be a junior employee come in and help service those customers? Because if you're acquiring books of business, you really want to be able to scale and have other employees do the work eventually, right? You maybe take over some of your current accounts while you start to manage the new accounts and onboard them. Yeah, what are those systems? Do they have good checklists? How do they prep? Are things being automated, or are you going to have to work from scratch and try and integrate them into your systems, which may be good or may not be good, right? And what are those contracts? Are they month to month, or is it just an annual service that you might provide on the bookkeeping side? And really, what I look for when I'm talking to my customers, we just had a customer we were meeting with yesterday, and he's paying $1 million for a business that has lots of contracts in place, but also he's mitigating the risk of competitors coming into his local market by buying that company. So, he's paying $1 million. He's getting 30 employees and some assets and stuff. But really, what he's doing is protecting his market. So he's the biggest player, right? And he's able to kind of control and go after most of the business, because the skilled people that do that work are tough to find. They're tough to find within the country, tough to find globally and stuff as well. So what are you getting for that price? Are you getting just a lot of headaches, or are you getting a ton of opportunity and a way to really grow the business? And a really important thing to know is, what is your cost of acquisition, right? And that's what it costs you to get a new customer. So your time, it might in the beginning seem really, really cheap, but as you get further on into your business, as you scale to 1 million and above that, your time gets worth more. I definitely think as soon as you get into the $1 million range, you're talking, five, at least $1,000. If you're trying to acquire a customer yourself, and it's going to take you a couple of meetings, and maybe some customers you don't get, so you got to take all that into account, figure out your cost of acquisition, and is it cheaper to go acquire new customers and not have to deal with some of the issues that might have come from how that past owner handled those customers, right? So figuring out that cost of acquisition, and then maybe improving and refining on that. You might find a good outbound marketer. I think there's some who are part of AO who can do that outbound marketing to help lower your cost of acquisition, so you're not doing it yourself. And then you can kind of compare. I can buy this for 80,000, or I can probably get 100,000, 200,000 worth of new business if I spend 10, 15,000 with this outbound agency and doing my own work as well, right? So ask around, figure out your costs, and really your time acquiring that is a lot, right? If they say, oh, we're gonna want to go to evaluation, we're gonna want to talk to your lawyer, we're gonna want to do a lot of back and forth. It's like you can spend a lot of time acquiring new customers in this market, because most people are pretty swamped. And when people are looking for new places to get services done, just having somebody who answers the phone and is responsive often sets you apart from other people who are, they might have just come out of tax season, be too busy to call people back. So just showing up might be cheaper than going out and buying somebody else's old book of business. But it's also a good way to do it. Another friend of mine, he just acquired a new accounting firm and is growing his business, putting those systems in place. So how do I ask for a raise in my day job? Ooh, that's been a long time since I've had a day job, and it's amazing how few employees actually ask for raises in my experience. I think men ask for raises more than women. So definitely it's something where you need to ask other people, kind of get a sense of what they're doing. But what I like to do is, if you get raises, be thankful. Start off by thanking your employer, because as you guys know, when you employ people, there's a lot of give in your mind, and employees, sometimes it feels like they take, right? So whenever somebody's thankful, like, we really take that, and it, it feels good. So start by saying thankful, saying how thankful you are for your last raise, and then really think about how you can take away the stress of this negotiation from your boss, because yes, you're going to be increasing their costs, but hopefully as part of it, you're a good team player who takes away their stress of running the business, right? So as part of that, do your research beforehand. Like, if you are in a unique position, there are comparables or indirect comparables, right? So if you can see there's lots of people hiring in other areas that are pretty similar, find out what those wages are and bring those comparables into that conversation. Do that conversation in person. When you're looking at negotiating in person is way more effective than sending an email or talking to somebody on the phone. So plan to actually sit down, meet with your boss, and ask for a raise. What I like to talk about in negotiation is setting the anchor. So if you need a $500 a month raise or a $50 a month raise, put that out there, put it a little bit high, and then you're in a bit of position of power, right? If you say, oh, I'd like a raise, what do you think I could get? You're not really kind of controlling the conversation. But if you come in and say, listen, this is what the comparables are out there, and this is what I need to really make a living, pay for my kids' schooling and what I have coming up. Can I get an extra $500 a month? You set the anchor, and it's really important in negotiations in your business, and then also when you're looking for a raise, to really know what you're doing. And when you've got when you've got employees and they ask for a raise, set the anchor and say, oh, would $100 a month? How would that feel, right? It's a lot harder for somebody to turn back and say, well, I actually had $500 in mind. They're more likely to go back and say, oh, that's really not enough. How about 150, right? So it really, setting that anchor is important in negotiations, and doing it in person, because the longer the other mediums that you choose, even doing it over video, it's likely to drag out negotiations. I was just negotiating with somebody in the UK for their North American business, and we did it by video. And yeah, we came to pretty good terms. Instead of emailing back and forth on the payables, he asked for 60. We had 30 in a contract. We went to 45. It's done. We don't have to worry about it. All right. So it just helps clarify what people are looking for. So I hope that's helpful. And I hope it's helpful for when your employees come to you for a raise, just kind of knowing what's out there. And another thing I always think about is, how much time are we discussing raises? How much time are we discussing bonuses? Is our time better spent doing other things? So my management team was discussing about a $50 a month benefit an employee wanted. And I said, you just make the decision, because that's $600 a month. And us sitting here around the table, with an over $1 million a year business, is spending way more than that $600 just discussing it. So kind of remember that making decisions quickly is almost more effective than having to have these discussion with all the employees or a bunch of managers and stuff. So try to put things in place so it scales and it doesn't take too much time. Another question from Selena as well is, what is a good way to develop a business plan? And as a background, she's in the service business, tattoos, and she's got a ton of ideas and fragments of text, but she doesn't know the first thing about writing a business plan. And what should I include? So number one, I'd tried to focus on starting with a one-page business plan. So writing those ideas down and just trying to get them down on one page. Who are your target customers? What you're going to charge for them? How are you going to find those customers? And how are you going to deliver on that business? Like, if there's a location needed, what it'll cost in rent or lease rates, what it'll cost to do the tenant improvements, and try and fit that onto one page. Definitely reach out to Sean and find the $1 million business plan that he's got, and one page plans, because within Accelerators organization, you've got those resources on the website as well, right? To really help you develop that business plan. And I think key to any business plan is asking your customers, right? So you got to figure out who your ideal customer is. If you're in tattoos, you're in recruiting, you're in landscaping, there's always like an ideal customer who will pay the right amount, cause just the right amount of headaches, and you can take their stress away, right? So, it might be women between the ages of 18 and 30. They in your city, they're ideal customers, right? So talking to at least 30 of them, yeah, and really asking them, what do they spend their disposable income on? You know, in the last year or last 3 years, have they gotten a tattoo? Have they gotten anything else similar to a tattoo? How did they find out about that tattoo parlor, right? And it's the same for any business. Is you want to find out what people are willing to pay, what they have paid, and whether or not they're going to make purchases again in the future. Because if you survey 10 people and 7 of them say, no, I'd never spend money on it, but you get those 3, that helps you understand your ratio of potential customers, right? And how many potential customers you're gonna have to touch in your marketing to convert those 3 and help them become customers, right? So it's the first part of your marketing is actually making those calls, meeting with those people, and saying, how much are you willing to spend? So definitely getting a survey done early and getting that one-page business plan, location, 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 but also price, right? What are I'm going to charge, and don't think about what you currently make at your current business, and do a survey of what other customers or other businesses are doing and how they're able to grow at that price point, right? Because it doesn't help that somebody charges $100 an hour or $100 for a service, but they can't attract employees and make the investment in having managers and things like that because their margins are too low. And what is the wait time, right? If I walk into a business and say, I want service, can they service me right away that day? That means there might not be a lot of demand. So even walking into 3 to 4 like businesses and saying, hey, I'm interested in getting this work done. When can I get it done? And if you get an indication that there's somebody in the back ready to do it right away, there might not be quite as much demand, but that's what your survey will really tell you. And doing that research as well, that primary research, finding out how many potential customers, and especially that ideal customer, you could service. So the next question comes from Mark Gibson. What process would be best to define leap of faith assumptions when trying to bring a product to market that has never been developed before? Yeah, so this is a pretty in-depth one, and I might be out of my depth. So I'll just take my best stab at this one. It might be that another mentor is better for this, but what he's doing is he's developing a non-technical data analytics tool, a business intelligence for small businesses to be able to readily have access to data analytics. And Mark is trying to figure out who his target audience will be, and a minimal viable product, which encompasses the KPIs that most businesses would find useful. So, I'm not a huge fan of leap of faith assumptions. I'm a huge fan of picking up the phone, trying to figure out who your target customer is, buying them a coffee, getting out and networking, and saying, what problems can we solve for you? So small businesses are really, really stretched right now. They don't have enough employees, they don't have enough money, and they don't have enough time. So you're going to have to be really focused and sure, make some leap of faith assumptions about what you think a small business will need and present it really quickly to a number of potential customers. There's some great ways to figure out if something's going to be viable just by putting it out there to entrepreneurs, putting out to the AO group and say, hey, if I was able to give you business intelligence on these three things, how would that transform your business? Would it help you make more money, make better business decisions, right? So definitely a big fan of the power of three, right? Try and keep it fairly simple when communicating a message. And, a leap of faith I don't think people should make is that people will pay. You know, when Elon Musk was developing electric cars, he was able to see what people were paying for a Porsche. He was able to see what people were paying for a Toyota hybrid at the time, right? So he didn't have to make leap of faith assumptions. It might have been a leap of faith that they'd make that switch from the $20,000 Leaf to a $40,000 Tesla 3, but he'd also done his market research. There's no way he didn't talk to at least 30 people and say, what would you invest in a car? How often do you invest in a car? If you could buy a car that was as nice as a BMW, but didn't have the environmental impact, well, the emissions impact, would you make the jump and pay more, right? So definitely, focus in and really ask what KPIs businesses are looking at, right? A big one for us are potential customers, right? How much time does it take us to acquire them, and how can we learn more about our customers and what they want and what they're doing? So happy to chat with you more about that question, Mark. I'd love to understand it more and what you're thinking. Next question comes from Heather Brockman. What is the best way to get employee participation for non-mandatory reviews or surveys? Yeah, so she can do surveys through her payroll company monthly, and she's getting about 50% participation. And despite reminders, getting people to participate is really pulling teeth. So how do we get people and specifically employees to participate in reviews or surveys? So people are getting tons of questions thrown at them. So whether it's a net promoter score, please rate our service between 1 and 10, or these telemarketers, like you deal with your insurance company or your bank, and then they'll call you and say, how was our service? So I totally understand your employees work hard. They might not want to fill out a big survey. So number one thing is keep those surveys quick, like 3 questions maximum. Even better is that score of 1 to 10 on a specific thing, and make it mobile, right? So if you're doing it through your payroll company and it can't be easily viewed on their phone, and they have to log in or enter in their email address, it's going to be a pain and they won't do it. One of the things is they're employees, so why are you making them non-mandatory? I know it's nice to kind of have a casual organization, but you can just say, hey, it's mandatory. I'm going to be checking in at our quarterly reviews. I want to make sure that you've done the reviews every month. It really helps us build the business and improve our responsiveness to our employees, right? So really giving them a why, and take away why it's non-mandatory, especially if they can just do it at work, right? I'm paying you. It's going to take less than 5 minutes out of your day. Do it. I hope that's a good answer, because I know it's tough sometimes to get employees on the page, but if you need it, give them the reason why you need it and say, do it. Sherry has a question. Sherry Morris. What do you need to detail or outline in an employee job description? So I've got over 20 years of employee job description experience, and yeah, it's an art, not a science, but definitely it's important to understand what people do. And so Sherry's business is Aerial Fitness Studios. So to me, I'm thinking kind of Cirque du Soleil, some amazing, physically and kind of artistic people who can also communicate with it, your customers as well. And you need to launch within the next 90 days. So hopefully get them trained and certified and ready for launch in 90 days. Yeah, I think a job description is important, especially if you're trying to hire people, and post that on Indeed, share it in your socials, and get it out on Facebook and Instagram and places like that. So R&D, rip off and duplicate. Do a search on Indeed for aerial fitness studio instructors. Find out what Peloton is using to find instructors, because hopefully they'll have refined and done the research on what both their job description used internally, which are often different than used for job advertisement marketing. But you just need one, really the one that outlines it to attract people for job listings, right? So what I always like to say, if I'm looking for experienced people, I don't need to explain so much about the job. I just need to explain about us and about what differentiates us, right? So if I'm looking for a skilled recruiter, right? We headhunt people all the time. I say I want somebody who knows how to talk to customers, negotiate, and make people happy, right? So 3 things you can put out there right at the outset to get skilled instructors, right? So it might be, I want somebody who can learn our system, motivate our clients, and leaves our clients with a smile on their face every single time. And somebody who might be working for a studio or in a job where they've been an athlete, and they're currently, they just finished school and they don't know what to do with their life. They're like, man, that sounds like a good job. I can motivate people. I can use my athleticism, and I can have people leave every day with a smile on their face, right? So I like to call out to the people who already know what they're going to have to do, and give them the why and what'll happen when you do it with us, right? So 2 things: go out and find other organizations that you want to you want to kind of replicate, but also improve, right? So look at Orange Theory Fitness, look at Peloton, look at small businesses as well. And on the aerial side, if there's not a job right now for an aerial fitness studio across the country, I'd be surprised. And you'll find probably 2 to 3 bad ones, but 1 or 2 gems that you can just kind of modify. Definitely make changes, put your own personal flair on it. Don't just copy it. Add to it and really kind of make it exciting. Give it your voice of your fitness studio. Looking forward to that launch. Hope to see in one of the Friday updates that the picture of your new staff and how well it goes. Next question is Perry. How do I evaluate new opportunities for a side business? Yeah, for me, I've started 2 to 3 companies since my main business, Red Seal Recruiting. Some of them have been complete flops, and really, I think you should do the same due diligence as building a business plan and surveying potential customers. So in the case of Perry, he's talking about his core business is selling through Amazon through the FBA program, and he's really trained his operation admin team to really run the business, and it's really ticking over. So he's looking at complementary businesses, often related to Amazon, right? And I think it's actually a good thing, because I do see entrepreneurs with substantial sized businesses thinking about selling through Amazon. And yeah, it's one where, like, this behemoth is in all of our pockets on our mobile phones. We might buy stuff off our desktop computers through Amazon, but that depth of knowledge that you've built is worth leveraging, right? One of the things you're looking at are consulting or creating courses, also helping people with their branding and doing private label. So I think the most important thing to me is, can you get in touch with those potential customers to do that market survey? All right. So if we're looking at the cost of acquiring new customers, yes, you can use pay-per-click. Yes, there's some tricks you can get through SEO and um, outbound marketing, but can you yourself pick up and call 10 of those potential customers who have the decision-making power and have the budget, right? And I'm not an expert in the Amazon, selling space. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars there, but are you part of networks where you can reach out to those Amazon business people who sell through the marketplace and ask them about what services you can sell to them next, right? So evaluating that and asking what they've spent on it in the past, right? So if they've never spent money on consulting, what would prompt them to spend that money? In the last 12 months, how much did they spend on courses, right? So really asking those deep questions. Yes, you're going to a lot of experts out there say, yeah, starting a course, a digital course is amazing. And yeah, it is a huge business. Without a doubt, we've all paid for courses. But how is yours going to differentiate? How many competitors are out there? And that's where putting it on that one-page plan, one of the questions I answered earlier, I forgot to really dive into is, who's the competition? I don't like to focus on them because, you take the old Tony Robbins, what you focus on, you hit, right? So if you focus on the tree while you're in a skid and driving, you'll hit the tree. But if you focus on where you want to go, you'll hopefully correct the car and get back on the road. So do find out what the competition is doing. Are they making money? Does it look like they're growing? One trick you can use is if you add LinkedIn, LinkedIn business account, I don't know, it's 50, sometimes $100 a month, depending on what service. If you have somebody else, maybe a recruiter, has LinkedIn business, you can see how many employees a competitor is hiring. So you can see their growth, right? So if you think something is a good side business to get into, find out who the market leaders are. Are they growing? Usually to grow, you have to acquire employees. In the case of some digital businesses, having more employees doesn't kind of move the needle too much, but that's definitely one of the indicators, right? So if I'm going to go into this new space, are there other people who are growing their business in this new space? Yeah, and really, which one would I do first? When I get on the phone with that first 30 people, and if I can get 10 of them who say, yes, I will, or I am going to spend, or I have spent X in this last 12 months, or I'm planning in the next 12 months to spend X, that tells me, yes, I can build a business. I can hire a team, retrain people, right? And then you got to make that math work, right? If it's going to be 5 out of 30, what it's going to cost for you to acquire those people, what is the cost of the training you're going to have to do, and really, does it look like on paper, on a quick napkin sketch, that you're going to make some really good money out of it? Because it looks like you got a good business, but I always worry that if most of my business is coming from one customer, I might be putting things at risk. Definitely looking at other channels, whether it's selling through Facebook Marketplace or other growing avenues. Definitely consider not putting all of your eggs in the Amazon basket. I mean, they are the the biggest, and they're definitely going to continue to grow. But how can I diversify and take what I've learned there and put that into other marketplaces, the systems I've done so well at developing? How can I expand my market so I'm not kind of really tied into this one marketplace? Great. I think that's pretty good for these questions. If I answered something really well, just let me know in the comments. We're going to be probably repackaging this and using it for some of our marketing. So really love the feedback. If you have further questions, something I said that was unclear, love to clarify it for you. And if you've got a business question anytime, you can always shoot me a quick message on Facebook Messenger. But definitely Sean is your best resource. Your other entrepreneurs who are part of Accelerators organization are the ones to really get those questions out on a daily basis and really dig deeper, because some great experience here. Really appreciate the questions from Ricardo, Kevin. Who else? Selena had a couple. Heather and Sherry and Perry. Yeah, I'd love to see some more questions from some other members in the next month. Hope you're doing well. Hope you crush it, and have a wonderful May.